Hi there, my name is Justin Couvillion. I am a senior AVS specialist with VMware. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about Azure VMware Solution, try and give you a 10-minute quick intro as to what it is and why it might be interesting to you. So let's go ahead and move forward with that. Azure VMware Solution is a first-party Microsoft solution that allows clients to take their existing VMware architecture and move it into Azure. This presents a number of benefits that we'll talk about. So first and foremost, it allows you to get into Azure quickly. You can do that without having to refactor your environment, which lowers your migration cost. It means that you can get into Azure and start consuming if you have something like an Azure Enterprise Agreement. It also means that you unlock the ability to move very quickly and then refactor individual applications as they make sense. It also results in a very low TCU as compared to other solutions of getting into the cloud, and allows you to not have to worry about changing operationally the way that you do business in your IT environment. Its superpower is speed. It gets workloads to Azure faster because of this ability to use effectively a VMware environment to use a vMotion to get you from on-prem into the cloud. And again, it is a first-party Microsoft solution, which means that it can still retire Mac commitments and allow you to get there without having to refactor, at least initially. The environments that we see are primarily data center exit or cloud migration situations where people are trying to get out of on-prem hardware into a dedicated footprint within Azure. We also see a lot of disaster recovery, which is when maybe perhaps a client would like the ability to diversify its regional, diversify the geography of its DR plan by moving one of those, either the primary or DR location, into Azure, but still allowing for failover and connectivity to a VMware environment. And then application modernization, so individual applications like perhaps Windows 2012 or other applications that can be moved to AVS. If you move Windows 2012, for example, to AVS, you get 3 years of extended support and security updates from Microsoft. So the way that it's built in Azure is really important to understand because it's different than Azure Native. VMware Solution, there is a cage specifically for Azure VMware Solution. And in that cage, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of servers that contain a suite of software called VMware Cloud Foundation. Basically, on each node of that environment, there's vCenter, NSX, HCX, and vSAN, which allow for a hyperconverged system to be created per client, dedicated per client with that software-defined data center on it. So what does that mean? That means it gives a client an ability to run VMware natively within Azure in the Azure region of their choice. Once they've set that up and connected to their existing ExpressRoute or SD-WAN VPN connection, they can then do a vMotion from on-prem into this environment, which saves a whole heck of a lot of translation and pain in refactoring the environment. If the client also has Azure Directory, Active Directory, or other SQL database, other Azure native type of deployments in the Azure VNet, there will actually be a side benefit for the client, which means that the client will get the ability to now move those workloads directly right next to the PaaS workloads or IaaS or SaaS workloads within Azure Native, meaning that you're then going to get better performance because of a drop in latency that occurs. But primarily, it allows you to run VMware within the Azure region of your choice, hosted and supported by Microsoft. So it is running on bare metal. It is sold and delivered by Microsoft as a first-party product, and it is integrated with the Azure portal. It also has direct access to Azure native services, as I just stated. So what you need to know, though, is that it is licensed by node. So if you look on the purple on the bottom right here, There's three different hardware types. One's called the AV36P, one's called the AV52, and one's called the AV64. You can look into these later, and really when you size it with either your partners at Microsoft or with a partner, uh, they're going to show you which makes the most sense for you. But these are effectively Lego building blocks. So basically, in the example of AV36P, you would get a node that has 36 cores, 768 gigs of memory, 19.2 terabytes of premium SSD per node, and then they're going to build a cluster of a minimum of 3 nodes for your environment. Now, typically, it's going to be bigger than that, but that's the minimum size. So Azure VMware Solution is not a great solution for folks that only have a handful of VMs. Um, but for those that are big enough for it, what they are getting is a dedicated hyperconverged system running VMware only for their client, only for their customer, for their data, and managed and sold by Microsoft, allowing them to not have to change off of the VMware footprint. These can also be then bought on a reserved instance basis. Um, Basically, the unit of consumption becomes the node itself. Software is all you can eat, so that means it doesn't matter how many VMs you have on these clusters. It matters how many nodes you have in the cluster, and each node is priced accordingly in Azure. You can buy either on demand, 1-year reserved instance, or 3-year reserved instance versions of these nodes in Azure. You can pay for them monthly. You can pay for them upfront. Some clients have been successful in having this be a CapEx. That's due to each client's definition of a CapEx, but it has been done because of the fact that the hardware is typically dedicated per customer. The growth path for a client is not, again, per instance or per VM, but it's per node. So the ability to, once you're full on a cluster, add a node is very simple. You go into the Azure portal, and you add a node, and then within 30 minutes, it's tied in via logic and automation into your environment, and you have the additional capacity. Another way of stating that is, as long as you have room in your cluster, incremental workloads cost $0 until you've filled the cluster and need the next node. So it results kind of in the picture here in like a stair-step approach to growth. It is available today as of October 23 in 27 regions and counting. Between each of these regions in green here is the Microsoft dedicated global backbone. So you can connect to a region and connect to a cluster in the region of your choice. And it's widely available. There are single customers running over 400 VMs, 400 nodes in Azure VMware Solution. There are thousands of clients, and it's been one of the most successful instance types in terms of migrating clients to Azure. What you get also is a full PaaS solution in Azure. That means everything in blue here is handled by Azure as a service to you. Gone are the days of having to upgrade ESX. Gone are the days of having to do host patching, critical security updates, etc. That will all be maintained by Microsoft as a cloud service for you. So part of the benefit is this is not just hyperconverged co-located in Azure's data center. It is a true cloud. It just happens to be dedicated to you running VMware instead of Azure Native. It is supported and sold by Microsoft, and it supports a number of different technology partner solutions, including scalable storage by Azure NetApp Files, Cloud Block Store from Pure Storage, and the DR and data protection solutions from the folks involved here. This allows you in a DR scenario to set up either a hot site, a full hot site, or a pilot light environment, taking advantage of best of breed from ISV technologies. Finally, you might think that because you put VMware on top of this environment, that it might be more expensive than Azure Native, and the opposite is true. It is actually less expensive than both on-prem and Azure Public Cloud. And the reason for that is that these reserved instances are incredibly lucrative and very, very up to 50% discount, and they include everything, including the storage and software here. It also means that you don't have to spend a ton of money initially on migration costs. Migrating a native environment over to Azure, a VMware environment over to native Azure can take 18 to 24 months in refactoring time and cost. So it's an extremely effective, very, very um, successful solution called Azure VMware Solution, and it can be your first step into the cloud. I hope that's been helpful. And until next time, I wish you the best of luck.